welcome to Basketball Talk Pro. We've been kind of following a thread, if you haven't been really watching it in the last few videos. We started with the 70-30 principle, which means that 70% of the scoring is being done on unstructured play, and only 30% is being scored in structured play. Yet structured play is what almost all coaches spend their time practicing. And we're trying to show you that this area of what we call the third element is important, very important. And to do that, we showed you next some film work trying to show you how to grade films, but even more important, to show you where the breakdowns occurred. Plays break down. Fast breaks turn into transition. And there are some times when there is no play at all. There's just, right from the get-go, they're doing something other than a play. It's a little complicated sometimes, especially in the NBA. It's a little bit more defined in college and in high school. But these are players that have been playing for a long time, so they have little nuances that just make it look a little bit more complex than it really is. But in that film, we showed you how much of the game is played in the third element, the unstructured area. And it holds true all through every level that I've been acquainted with. And then we spent a little bit of time with the 80-20 rule, just to show you, to make you aware that doing just the smaller things many times provide for most of your results. That's the idea of the 80-20 rule. It doesn't have to be 80-20, but what the point I'm trying to get across is if 70% of the scoring is done in unstructured play, then that's what you should be working on. And we'll take that a little bit farther. Then we moved into the fast break, gave you the concepts, and showed you just the beginning of it. I wanted you to see that before we went on to the next area, which is offensive rebounding. Offensive rebounding right now, maybe it's getting a little better, but offensive rebounding is a lost art for a lot of teams at all levels. They have begun to give up offensive rebounding to protect against the fast break, and we'll talk more about that also, probably in another video. Basically right now, teams do nothing on the offensive boards. Now that isn't true of all teams, and I'm going to show you that. But for the most part, that's what's happening. Mainly because offenses are so spread out now with the pick and roll and guys sitting in the corner, and the shot goes up and they just run back. And I've been on a quest for a couple of years now to show that offensive rebounding can be a very important part of the game. I don't think you can afford to give it up. Just give it up. It does two things, really. First of all, it gives you great opportunity to score, and I'm going to show that to you in just a little bit, how effective that is when you get an offensive rebounding on you scoring, on your team scoring. And the second thing it does, it controls the fast break. Now, you're not going to get every rebound that you miss a shot. But if you're making shots and getting offensive rebounds and making free throws, you've killed fast break. I don't care who you are. Even Paul Westhead couldn't handle that. And so those are two important things. I'll show you in a chart that I've kept doing film work that points out how important offensive rebounding is, even though teams, a lot of the teams are not doing it. But I'll also show you there are some teams that are doing it, and they're doing it very well. So let's take a look at that short chart.
Well, this is a chart that I kind of have kept up over the last couple of years. First of all, I want to just point something out. Indiana Atlanta was a series, a 7 game series in the playoffs. Indiana won it in 7 games. But the first 2 games that I didn't keep track of their field goal percentage. They're made in attempts off of offensive rebounds. This column will show you the offensive rebounds for each team. These 2 columns show you the shooting percentage or field goal percentage after the offensive rebound was secured. Now, this does not mean that it was a put back right away. It could have been an offensive rebound, and there were a number of them that they got the rebound and threw it out, and then the team attacked afterwards. But that was still the result of the offensive rebound that they gained. So the number of shots here may not match up completely with the number of offensive rebounds, but they were all after an offensive rebound. Sometimes they were a putback. This is the percentage that they shot on those shots after an offensive rebound. This column is the key column because this column shows their OER for the offensive rebounds that they got. In other words, this one indicates that they scored 1.5 points for every offensive rebound that they got. And you can just go down the list here and see the high level of scoring after an offensive rebound. And that's my point is these numbers are so much better than what they would get in running a play or in any one of their plays. Their plays were probably running somewhere about a half a point per time they ran it. So this is, this points out how valuable offensive rebounds are. Now, if you look down this list, look at Atlanta, for example. The first game they did have 7 rebounds, but if you go down, 1 offensive rebound, 4 offensive rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds, three, and 4. That's because they were shooting a lot of threes. Everybody was just going back down to protect against the fast break. And these teams were taking advantage of the fact that they could get defensive rebounds when people were going back, but they never made any effort. Now you get down to San Antonio. This was a big game. It was the 6th game of their series that put them into the finals the year that they won it. Look at this is what offensive rebounding can do. 16 offensive rebounds. They had 8 shots from them. They made 7 for a total of 17. Now this total will include 3-point shots, and it will also include free throws. So, it shows here 14 points if they were all twos, but it could have been threes. And whereas Oklahoma City, in a key game, and it was a pretty close game, only had 6 points off of offensive rebounds. They're one of the teams that just go back. They give up. They don't even go for an offensive rebound. But even when they did get it, they were still at 1 point. Much better, I'm sure, than their plays were in that game. But that's 11-point difference, in a close game. That's a critical difference. Now, I also did a game just the other day. Golden State played Toronto. This was an interesting game, also as far as offensive rebounding. These two teams went to the offensive boards hard. Toronto was very strong on the offensive boards, but both teams shot, very high percentage. 4 for 5 for Golden State off offensive rebounds and 7 for 9. What was unusual in this game, and I don't know if this is enough of one game is enough to predict anything, but what was unusual, they got a lot of 3-point shots after an offensive rebound that was thrown out. And a lot of those 3-point shots were wide open. I think between the two teams, they made five 3-point baskets after getting the offensive rebound. You can see their points here were terrific. 14 points out of 9 times. They had an OER of 1.56. Toronto shot 78%. They were 1.75 points per offensive rebound. Toronto had more 3-point baskets than Golden State did off of offensive rebounds. Now, the totals, though, tell the whole story. 105 offensive rebounds in all those games. They were shooting 63% on the shots they took after an offensive rebound. For the whole bunch, it came to one. They scored 1.26 points every offensive rebound. Plays don't even come close to that. This is a valuable part of the game, and a lot of teams are just conceding the offensive rebound. But this is a good inclination of what offensive rebounds can do. We could use more data, but what I've found is you get a good sample, and this is a pretty good sample, 105 offensive rebounds. It doesn't change much. They can have one game that's bigger or smaller, but overall it doesn't change a whole lot. So I think you can make some decisions based on this. Well, that's it for this chart.
I hope that shows you that in your own coaching, you want to put some emphasis on offensive rebounding. In the Monk offense, we say 1 man back and 4 go to the boards. We think by swarming the boards, even though you're smaller, you can get a lot of putbacks, a lot of offensive rebounds. And if they aren't putbacks, as the chart showed you, we talked about it, that you're still going to end up getting good shots. Because when that ball comes out, the defense is not set. They've been trying to get into the defensive rebounding, and now they're a little bit mixed up. And if you have an organized attack, you can get a lot of easy shots. And it showed particularly in San Antonio, Toronto, and Golden State. Golden State's not a big team, neither is Toronto for that matter, but they just went to the boards. They just attacked it, and they put points on the board because of it. One last thing. Don't give up on the fast break because these teams are dropping back. I see this a lot, where the offensive team gets the rebound. I mean, there's nobody there to fight them, and they don't throw the ball far enough up the court, and they don't attack. they kind of say, well, we don't have a fast break. Remember what I said about the fast break. Think of the fast break as the break and the transition are all one. What you are going to get a lot of with their setup is if you get the ball up the court and you push at them and you're organized in transition, you're going to get a lot of shots. They're not ready for that. They're getting back, but they're not getting back to play defense. They're just getting back. So we're going to move forward with that also, though maybe we're going to bounce around a little bit, but I have to do that. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you can bring your team up a notch with some of the things that we're talking about. See you next time. Thank you.